that?
I'll let you speak for just a minute.
No, we don't need to speak. We're just gonna, once you get started, we're gonna click you on and on you go.
You don't understand what's going on?
They're all set.
Nope.
Okay. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, January 10th, 2012. Roll call. We're all presently here. Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to get more in depth with the upcoming budget for 2012-2013, and I'm going to begin with the police department. And as y'all can see, we have a new cable TV hopefully up and running. They're going to work the bugs out, I guess, for a meeting or two or whatever. It should be on, what'd you say, tomorrow maybe? Possibly, or the next?
Tomorrow, Wednesday.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, okay. Keith, do you want to start us off, or what you have in this packet here for us?
Well, in the packet you were
Updated, correct?
yeah, some of the information you have here is updated. What you'll need to do is take the backup information that you got at your last meeting and put it in behind the pages that are there for each distinct department as we move through. Tonight we're focusing on the police department's operating budget, and I think at the end, if you want to talk with the chief reference to his capital improvement programming or what his thoughts are for the upcoming fiscal year, I think he's prepared to maybe chat a little bit about that as well. But tonight, the police operating budget. A couple things, if I can just highlight before we get into it. First and foremost, that once you got your packets, I had both the chief and the finance director sat down to ensure that the numbers that we're presenting you are accurate numbers that both the finance office and the police department agree with. There should be a sheet, a computer-generated sheet, sort of like this one here, that should be in your packets. That sheet should have a bottom number, which has now been adjusted.
Do you have a page number for the department?
No, you just go to the police department's budget, and you thumb through that.
The old one, the new one, or the one the police gave us?
The new one, the one that will be in the packet. You'll go by Public Works, and you'll come to the police budget. So if you go by Public Works, it gives you the police budget.
Right.
How come O comes after you? You used to come after O.
What I did here, Selectman Murphy, is that the way it's presented to you is the way that it's presented within the town warrant, as we discuss it warrant by warrant. So that's why I left it in the order that it's in.
Oh.
Okay?
I thought it was, that was looking alphabetically.
Are we all set?
The bottom line is 1397908. That's the one we're looking at.
That is.
How far along
You have to wait till it's vacant, non-public
You
administration.
need to keep going.
Yeah, you gotta go they put O after U and after L.
You need to go to,
By planning and then public works.
you're going by the big sheets. Public Works. So the sheet behind there will be the sheets that we're talking about tonight. There should be two of them in the bottom line.
Should we be looking at that handout that we got last week?
The handout, to a certain extent, yes. There'll be some modifications to it, but I think I'd like to work off the chief may refer to the handout that he has to provide further detail if so needed this evening. but I think the sheet here will give you at least a overview of what we're looking at. And right now, the budget as presented is $1,397,908. And I need to point out that that's all inclusive. And what I mean by that is that this also includes a 75% reimbursement for the school resource officer, which is also included in this budget. Now, last year, we took it out. We presented it as a full budget, and then as we went through the budget process, we took that, which in this case would be $58,696 out of the budget.
Added it as a revenue, correct?
And, well, we didn't add it as a revenue, we anticipated it as a revenue to offset his working budget. But we looked at it as the school is gonna raise that money, so there's no reason for you to raise it.
But the school didn't raise the complete wages, am I right?
They cover the complete cost at 75%.
75% of the complete cost.
Complete cost.
So,
Wages,
so
retirement.
he makes 58,000 plus 25%?
Correct, with benefits, retirement, FICA,
And everything?
yes. The 58,696 will be a check from SAD 60 to the town of Berwick.
And who is that officer?
Officer Fogg, and he's here this evening.
Hey, Alan.
Hi.
How you doing?
So we provided the full
Okay.
package
Yeah,
here
I see
for you,
that now.
okay? It would be my recommendation that as you go through the budget, that you remove the $58,696 from this operating budget so it will reduce the actual amount that we'll request from the taxpayer of $1,339,212.
So there's 58,000?
$58,696.
Okay.
What is the final figure?
The final figure is $1,339,212. I think my math's
That's correct.
That's the actual.
That will be the actual that you'll be raising, will be requesting
Is
as
this
it's presented now. You'll also see as you go through, and I'm sure you want to get into detail on some of the line items, but you'll also see that roughly around 78% of this budget is employee driven. In other words, it includes all of our employees' wages, benefit packages, the retirement packages, and everything that we provide to our officers as a result of their working for us. So you'll see as you go through the red marks where the chief has on his sheet here, he's provided you the increases, and the reasons for those increases are basically under a union negotiated contract or otherwise noted.
What is that contract up? Be June of 2013.
So he's here and available to answer your questions, review the budget with you in further and greater detail if you so desire. Both the chief and I talked about one other area that we think that we may be able to make an adjustment in, and that would be under.
June?
Yeah.
The number that I was given through the finance office, I think she made a slight error, and she may have been looking at the cost for diesel fuel. We don't use diesel fuel, we use gasoline, and there was a significant difference in the cost of that. I calculated at $3.41 a gallon. That's what I was given for information. In speaking with Keith, it appears, like I said, that she may have been looking at diesel fuel. So the actual cost is roughly $2.78 a gallon. Quickly doing the numbers at 11,000 gallons. Last year I used 11,300 gallons, and that's typically right around the high tens, low 11,000s for fuel. We're at $34,100.
This diesel confusion, that's under gas and oil?
Correct. So what I did was I calculated at $341, which is the cost of diesel. It actually should have been calculated at roughly $278. That was the average that we spent last year as a town per gallon fuel.
What'd that total come to?
$34,100.
Now, that's at $2.78 a gallon?
Correct.
And the 341 was figured as diesel?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at an additional adjustment in that budget of $3,400. About right, Chief?
It's like 90.
We got 11,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Times 341, gives you
$3,400.
37. Okay, so
Correct.
it's $3,400 reduction.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go. You'll be at 1,335,812 now.
What was on the in-key?
1,335,812. I think that's all the adjustments we had at this point, correct?
Correct. I can go down through the things that I indicated in red, kind of give you a little summary of what's going on. Again, the first one is full-time wages. You'll see it at $84,171. Again, that includes the 75% from the district. So that number appears high, but you have to remove $46,000 from that. That would make that number look quite different. The reason why there is an adjustment there is through the union contract. In that contract, this July 1st will be a pay increase for the union members of 40 cents per hour plus a 2% increase. So 40 cents plus 2%.
40 cents an hour plus 2% on their total wages or benefits and everything?
On just their wages.
Just their wages?
Correct.
Okay.
Obviously, though, when you adjust wages, that
Yeah.
rolls over into FICA, Medicare,
Yeah.
retirement, everything else.
But the base is off just wages?
Correct. Also, within the contract, there, what we have is step increases. The amount of time that somebody stays with the town, there's certain landmarks that they hit. So there are several officers throughout that budget year that will hit another pay increase. So that's also reflected in that cost as well.
That's longevity?
No, that's actually step increases. Longevity is paid, correct.
So by next meeting, you'll have a new sheet for us, replacing this one?
I believe Keith already provided that. Is that correct, Keith?
Not with these changes we just made tonight.
Okay.
But I will do that for you at your next business meeting.
How large is the step increases? Is this on here anywhere?
Roughly 3%. It runs roughly 3% for a pay increase. That's a step increase, I should say. And that's very competitive with other area contracts. It's not,
I'm a person, I don't like to hear what other towns are doing.
okay.
Believe me, that, don't get me going.
So this 3% is in addition to the other raises?
Yes,
And longevity also.
correct.
I'm interested in my police department and their budget, not any other towns.
Very good. As you move down, you'll see again, FICA, Medicare, employee ICMA. There's only one individual that participates in that. That's Denise Dunn, our secretary. Maine State Retirement. In speaking with the finance director, there was some confusion as to whether or not overtime should be calculated into the retirement, which it is. and that was something that she had overlooked, so you're gonna see an increase there as well. Again, when wages go up, obviously the amount of retirement money that the town contributes will go up as well. There was also an increase this year regarding the match that the town makes. Last year, it was 10.1%. This budget that we're going into will be 12.1%. So what you're looking at there is the total amount for retirement of all the wages for full-time employees and overtime, the overtime item as well, combined at 12.1%. That's where that 28,235 figure comes from. The other large increase, again, is in employee health insurance. We had several individuals this year move from the single plan to a family plan, which is a significant increase, from roughly $7,000 to about $17,000 for the insurance. So when 1, 2, or 3 people move, you're looking at roughly a $10,000 increase just to bring them into that other plan. Above and beyond that, you have a 6% increase, that came through the finance director. When you calculate the increases and the adjustments from plans from like single to family, that's where we come up with a 24,044 figure. This is all in the summary as well, the handout that you have, the description I've created for each line item.
Yeah, I read all this.
That other insurance thing that we'd had didn't fly?
It did not, and I provided a memo to you folks in reference to that. For folks that don't know what we were attempting to do, we were looking at providing a high deductible insurance program for all the employees of the town. And as a result of that, the town would encumber the health savings accounts for the deductibles within this plan. The analysis that was done on behalf of the town, including all of our employees, looked like the town would realize a savings of in excess of $50,000 in the first year of it. Unfortunately, because of our collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters, they have to review the program and to make a decision whether or not they felt that it was appropriate for them. The Teamsters voted and decided to stay where they were. What that did for us, however, we went back to the provider of that program and planned to see if it would be feasible for us to do it without the Teamsters involved, and their indication to us was there was no cost savings to the town as a result of that. So it has to be all or none.
Well, that's too bad, because I mean, the work that we did on that, and it showed a $50,000 increase in savings the first year, but proceeded to snowball after that. That was tremendous.
That's correct. I don't think that it may have been, Selectman Chair, it may have been as simple as a lack of total understanding of the people that had to vote on it to understand what the whole program was about. I don't believe that that this board should shy away from attempting that program again, or another program similar to that, and get engaged in our employees to look at it more favorably the next go around. Because every year, we look at the health packages and make adjustments accordingly.
Every year they keep going up.
Have we ever looked into other plans, but besides this one? I mean, because.
Yes, we did.
Because to me, the health insurance is very costly.
Correct.
Even for one person in this town. I think, and for like a family, I mean, it's almost unbelievable knowing what little bit I do about health insurance and matching and what private enterprise is doing.
That's why we were looking at the high deductible premium, where we would have a significant savings in our monthly cost.
The committee got together, and Sergeant was on it with us, and Denise, and we reviewed several different plans
Right.
as far as keeping the same type of coverage, but with different carriers and everything else. And this other plan just seemed like the right way to go, I guess it wasn't.
It just didn't pan out, but I would encourage our employees and you as a board to instruct me to continue to work on that on behalf of the town and see if we can get some sort of movement on that program.
But do you think that maybe if you got the union to work with you too, that they might come up with something cheaper?
Well, the union was intimately involved in the entire process. Their steward of the Teamsters was involved in the program.
I mean, the steward here,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's Denise. I meant
The
somebody up over,
the
over,
Teamsters.
yeah, the Teamsters themselves. I mean, because I'm sure that they're gonna be concerned that towns are not going to continue this because they can't afford it. And so I think they might be willing to sit down and try to help us find something.
Well, I think we need to.
And I think that's a
we need
conversation
to
we
do
probably
something.
should have.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. The next line was a longevity increase of $1,200. That's outlined both in the personnel policy in the town as well as the contract that the officers have. So there was an increase there of $1,200.
The longevity is also in the union contract?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. From 0 to 9 years, they receive $50 per year. From 9 to 14 years, they receive $75 a year. And from 14 on, they receive $100
It's
a
been
year.
increased a lot over the years. When I left this board in the early 2000s, it was still 50.
That changed.
But no matter how long
years
you've been
ago.
here.
It changed in this last contract negotiation.
Now, does salary personnel get any of that longevity too?
Salary does get longevity.
Because it's included in the personnel policy.
There is no increase. Again, you'll see the things that I didn't increase, everything that I could keep at the same budget as last year, current request.
And I had a question about the training. It says that's the union contract issue also. Is the dollar amount a union contract issue, or is just the training? Because you got that that specific drug money also that you guys worked hard for. That was designated basically for training, correct?
That's designated for anything that I can connect with drug activity or,
Okay.
fighting drug crimes. So that's very broad based, but I do have to be able to articulate that it's connected somehow with fighting the drug.
Now, if this says under contract, what type of, could you, I know it didn't increase, but we're looking at the bottom line also. Is there any way to roll some of that money into, say, deducting like some of the training and whether it's, supplies or equipment or something like that you might need for that aspect of it?
The issue with training is not only is it in the contract, but it's also a state mandate that they have to meet a certain criteria through the legislature for training each year.
Right.
So I'm bound to that. I do utilize some online training with the facility we have now, the old school, the current police department. We've been able to offer training there to other agencies, which helps, pay for that cost. In that cost that you see for training, there's membership to what you call District 1 training, which is basically York County. That money brings in instructors from other areas.
And I understand you didn't increase that line
Right.
item, and I really appreciate that. The fact I was trying to see if you could earmark some of that money that you received from the state
Oh, I follow what you're saying.
to decrease it, you know what I'm saying?
How much did that train, oh, okay, answer.
I would have to look at, I would have to find some training that I could say, it'd have to do two things. A, it has to meet the requirement through the
Right.
state.
Yeah.
Can I use that towards their hours that they need to meet for the state mandate? And is it connected with drugs? I could look at that And what you're saying is actually use some of the $9,000 to train the
To-
guys
To
on
defer some of
drugs.
this, right.
Yeah, I can look into that, that's not a bad
And
idea.
it's just one of those things where, you know, we understand and we appreciate the fact that they work diligently to get the case
Mhm.
to completion and to receive that. But the bottom line type thing is, the other stuff where that's employment wages, union contracts,
Is there
might
any,
as well handcuff us.
is there any of this training that they have to go to the academy to do, even if just for a day, or?
Their contract, their actual contract does state that they have to go to the academy for academy training. That's
Yeah,
one
I
of the things.
understand that, but I meant to keep their, that accreditation there, that training each year.
There's nothing that
Because I
they
know
have to
that-
physically go to the academy for to meet that mandate.
Okay.
There's, what's happened, once that became legislation, they do move that type of training around the state. We typically end up in Wells and York. So they kind of come to us with the training.
So
That saves us
That saves travel.
travel, correct.
Yeah, and overnight, 'cause
There's nothing in there, the state mandated 40 hours a year training can be done all locally. There's nothing that I have to send them to the academy for. What they do though is they set the criteria. They gave us topics that we have to cover, and we have to meet those. If the guys don't meet them, I have to essentially send a decertification letter up. And I have to have a remedial plan saying how we're gonna bring them back up to standard. If that doesn't take place, then they're technically not certified in the state. Doesn't happen, but that's the process.
yeah, I knew there was something that they had,
Mhm.
and they passed it every year, especially with firearms.
Correct.
Chief, you have like, under your contractual training, there's, you have like, OC training, which I don't know what that is, ASP training,
Yep.
and spike mat training. Is that something that drug money can be used for at all?
None of what you just mentioned can be. Those are things, tools that we use that we need to train in each year to keep certification in those. OC is the actual spray, it's the old pepper sprays. That's
Oh,
what
okay.
it is. Spike mats will be used to end pursuits. And the ASP is the actual strike tool that we keep on our belts, basically baton. Moving down again, I did increase, you saw the gasoline, and we kind of resolved that
But just a
here
minute, we
tonight.
got travel here, haven't we? Next.
We do.
And when I was, what would, if they don't have to go to, what would overnight, what would you have to do for overnight? And I mean, that's minimum, really.
Right, if there's training outside of the area, specialized training, occasionally, which is an occasional thing, that's to cover the cost of that. It also covers mileage in the event that somebody has to use their own vehicle. I have to pay them through the union contract at the current rate through the, what the federal
Yeah,
government
no,
sets.
but, and that's what I was talking about when I mentioned about training
Yeah.
going to the academy. That I realized that there had been some places where you had to go for
Yes,
training.
oh yes.
That's why I asked that.
Yep. Occasionally, somebody will have, like court, things of that nature that, either we don't have a cruiser for them to use, or it doesn't make logistic sense for them to travel one way 30 minutes to pick up a car to go 20 minutes the other way.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's some incidental training costs,
Okay.
travel costs, I should say. Also tolls, we still pay tolls like everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Not New Hampshire, just Maine.
Yeah. Do you want me to go down through each item, or just the ones that I've shown changes in? I have no issues either way.
Just changes maybe.
Well, I was just gonna say, next one's clothing. And this was a thing that we talked about years ago. When a person leaves,
Mhm.
can you ever reuse any of that clothing?
We actually do, we
Or
have,
do you hire somebody to fit the clothing?
well, Not that easy. We actually do, I say recycle the clothing. Some of our part-time employees are here. That's typically how we try and outfit our part-time people. Some of the stuff like the leather gear is obviously something that you can swap from person to person,
Yeah.
but pants and shirts,
Yeah.
you tend to want them to
Yeah,
fit.
that's true.
But the clothing thing, again, that is a contractual item, and a sizable amount of the $11,000 is already, as soon as July 1st comes, there are checks, money is set aside automatically for that contract issue, and it's $8,000. So 8,000 of the 11,000, I have no control over whatsoever as far as,
Each officer gets so much a year.
that's correct.
Does that include like vests and stuff like that too, or do you provide the vest?
In the contract, I provide the vest. We do have anybody in the country there's a federal grant program. They'll pay half of a vest or half the cost of a vest. We use that. And instead of me coming to you every 5 years with a big cost, what I'm doing is rotating
Has
a
that been
couple
a big
a year.
change? Have they changed the specifications?
They do change them occasionally. It's not something that happens a lot. When new technology comes out or
Just
new
train them how to get out
fabrics.
of the way?
Yeah. No, it's just a matter of we cycle them through. Eli Poor is actually the officer that handles that for us. So it kind of is just a revolving process.
Is it one vest fits all, or?
No, they're actually tailored to the officer. Yeah. I did want to mention, and Keith and I haven't spoken on this either, you're seeing the actual cost of last year for dispatch. That's one thing I cannot predict, and I have no insight on that whatsoever from South Berwick at this point. Typically, I don't get that information until March. That's the way it's been for the last, as long as I can remember.
Has Southborough decided what they're gonna do? Are they staying with it, or they?
They're still diligently looking to fund and operate a dispatch center.
I say that because I think it was even last year, again, we end up in March coming out with another several $1,000 increase because we finally get the projected cost from South Berwick. I do the same thing every year. I can only tell you what I used last year, and that was $140,000, $170. I suspect.
Anything more from?
There's a lot of banter going on right now. And I don't want to speak out of line because it's really Chief LaJoy's, his project. But there is banter going on, and I'm hopeful that something will take place because I think it will benefit, obviously, Berwick and a couple other communities in the area. If that does take place, I expect to see a reduction in the cost that we have. And I know that's the ultimate goal, obviously, for all the communities involved.
Will it be an ultimate goal, will it be a reduction for South Berwick?
Yeah, I think
Okay, well, maybe
if
they'll be
yep.
more active.
everybody would win if this takes place, so.
So in your bottom line there, almost 1.4 million,
Correct.
that 140,000 is included in there?
Yes, it is. So if the bill comes and it's 150, you'll see, again, the increase from 140 to 150 will be a few $1,000s.
It might come in at 130, right?
Right.
I'd like to
Typically
think.
what happens is that the finance officer here will generate a budget for us, and we'll show our contribution to that. And we're hopeful, as the chief has alluded to, that Southborough is going to be successful at least getting at least one more community engaged into their dispatch center. If they do that, I think we'll see a
Big
reduction down.
What percentage of their total do we pay now?
I would say it's 45%,
40.
40.
Are we paying 40% of South Berwick's total?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Has there been any more progress on the direct line answering at the PD?
The line is connected from ours all the way to South Berwick's console. The issue is they've got upgrades going on over there. The person that we had do most of the work actually, once again, is a part-time employee for us. And where the system over there is antiquated. He's a little reluctant to stick his fingers into it, so we're waiting for Dana to complete his upgrades, and it's 95% done. It's been a long, arduous.
I was gonna say, if that did, you would, I would think that possibly you would have some sort of standing at that point in time saying, hey, we're answering the phone during the day.
Yep.
You people don't have to do quite as much.
Yep.
That's a deal, type deal, you know?
What the ultimate goal on that line was to reduce the amount of air traffic that you hear during the day,
Right.
from dispatch to us, actually, on our station, to pick up the phone. What happens is somebody calls in for a copy of a report. Obviously, South Berwick doesn't have that report. That's when it's picked up over in Berwick, which ties up a lot of airtime. So we're trying to reduce the airtime.
But I think it would also decrease the workload, so you could
Yep.
almost justify saying, hey, you know, we took this burden away from you, we take a burden away, and we take some coin back. I think just all of these things, it seems like we got so many things that are just on the verge of being completed, that we just don't get completed, and the budget just keeps going up and up.
You saw an increase again down on heat. Again, I'm anticipating just the heating cost itself.
That's what the clothing allowance is for, put a jacket on.
More jackets. The end result is $82,555. And I cringe when I say that because that's obviously a large amount of money. It's a 6.5% increase on the overall budget. Of that increase, I control roughly about $3,000 of it. The rest of it is stuff that I don't have control over. It's the wages, the things that I've highlighted in red. I'd like to say I could come back with a zero budget, but it's not possible. Anything below what I've asked for, I'll have to look at what it will impact on the department itself as far as the service we provide.
What are you looking at? Is something that just sticks out that you would have to decrease if we said, say, come back with, say, 3% increase?
Honestly, again, I'm looking at manpower at this point. That's, I have, Keith and I talked today, I'm at the point where, you know, you're counting each gallon of gas, and not that we don't do that at home, but that's what we're looking at. I don't have anything I can say I can do away with. When I say that, if I say I have to do away with something, it's going to have to be something that impacts our service. Unfortunately, and I spoke with Milton today, the first thing that I would do is would back us out of the school. The taxpayers here in Berwick predominantly pay for us to be protecting the streets. I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that I'm opposed to what's going on with that relationship we have with SAD 60. It's been very positive for the kids, the school, and the community itself. But my priority, the ultimate priority, is out here. In saying that, if Milton comes out of the school, we're gonna lose obviously the $58,000,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be a savings of $20,000 for Berwick, or $19,565.
But we are paying his wages through our school budget.
Yes, you are. There's no
I mean,
question.
it's not like
That's correct.
anybody doing us any favors, it's coming out of our
You're
pocket.
still gonna pay for it one way or the other.
That's
That's
right,
correct.
that's right.
Just so you know, some of the changes that we've made tonight, but if we back out the 75% of the SRO's request, which was $58,696, and we reduced the fuel cost by $3,400, we've removed $62,096 from this budget at this point.
Okay, now fuel costs, I'm sure it is contracted.
Yes,
And then now, does the town contract everything as a whole? And just, and each department pays their share?
We generally put it out, we either put it out to bid individually, or we tag on with, the Greater Portland Council of Governments when they put theirs out to bid, and/or one of those two types of things. Right now, Lampron Energy provides us our number 2 heating fuel, as well as our gasoline, and P. Gagnon provides us diesel fuel and propane. So those are the two vendors that we're presently working with. And right now, the only changes that we have in our cost are any differences in rack prices that they have to pay at the pump.
So what are we paying for fuel right now, do you know?
It varies. Right now, it's,
And I almost had a heart attack when I got one of my bills. Because I didn't contract this year.
gas is at $2.99.8.
That's propane?
No, that's gasoline.
Oh, gasoline. Oh, $2.99.
Propane is running about, I think the bill the most recent bill I saw was $2.40. Diesel fuel is running about $3.35. And number 2 is running about $3.33.9. Now that changes monthly, depending on when they deliver and what the rack price is on that day.
That seems high, doesn't it, for the amount we use and a contract price? $3.33.9.
Well, the lowest it's been has been $3.009 has been the lowest.
What was it last year?
I'd have to go and look at your
Okay.
data to give you that, but on average, it's about $3.23.9.
What was that figure you gave us back to SRO and with the fuel adjustment?
Well, you take out the final number would be $1,335,812.
Savings of what?
Those, you'd be taking $62,096 out of that budget. So your increase in the budget now would only be $79,155.
But, wait a minute. He's only got, his total is $1,304,000, you're talking $1,335,000.
You didn't have $1,304,000.
That's this one, you have to go to the update. This one's not correct.
Oh, this one isn't correct?
That's correct.
So I did all this studying for nothing?
No, you did it. You asked some very good questions. This sheet here is a very accurate sheet from a computer generated from the finance office.
What other impacts are you gonna be directly affecting the overall budget of the town? Is there anything, I know you got probably what, the line at the one item for a cruiser? Is this a one cruiser year, or?
This is a 1 cruiser year, and then looking at the fleet, I'm giving it some consideration as to whether we're gonna need to do the 2-in-1. I'm thinking we might be able to go down to just 1 a year instead of the 2-1, 2-1. Occasionally, you know, every 5th or 6th year, we might have to buy 2, but for the longest time, we've been in the 2-1, 2-1. I did, and again, I spoke with Keith about this, understanding what you're up against as far as the entire municipal budget. I asked for half of a police car. I already have half from last year. Combine the two and I can purchase a car this year.
You want the half of the engine or the back?
I'd rather keep the police department running as it is and providing the service that we do. The building that we're in now, I don't see anything there that I need to fix, needs to be adjusted. There's things I'd love to have, but we obviously can't afford it. And I think, you know, again, ultimately, the taxpayers want us here keeping the town safe.
A couple of things, if I may. One of the things that we recently we received if you recall, I sent you a memo on this, we received a $10,000 energy efficiency review of our properties. And there were some things that were brought up at the police department, and in lieu of adjusting the budget, if you're looking at new building costs, we do have 13,000, roughly around 13,000 remaining in the CIP account for those who, they were talking about new insulation, additional insulation and some other things, around some openings, so on and so forth. I think I shared that
Yes, you
report
did.
with you. So, I mean, there's one way of taking care of some additional costs that may be related there that would have an impact on the municipal operating budget for the PD. And then, if the chief does ask, right now it looks like there's about 13,500 in the cruiser purchase capital improvement plan. So I think we talked about another 20.
Correct.
Yeah. So that would 20 from last year we allocated 48,000. So you'd see a $28,000 savings there in that request from last year to this year.
When they did an energy thing, when we went into that building, did we put new windows in there or replacement
Yes.
windows?
It has all new windows.
Oh, it does, okay, because usually that's the one item that,
I have had a chance to review the audit that Keith gave me. Most of the heat loss is on the upper level, which would be the attic. Normally, that's where it takes place. Around the eaves, they were showing some areas. Some of the tiles are older tiles. I guess they're not as efficient as some of the new ones. It was a very extensive audit.
They're very detailed.
Did they give you, cost savings? Is that
Yes, there's
implemented?
yes, in the analysis, there's a buyback provision in there. If you do X, it'll take X, so many years in order to pay it back, so.
So many years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'd have to look, we'd have to be specific. The document is so detailed that it does provide us options and what our return on those investments would be.
I mean, if we did a little each year, it might,
Well, I'm saying if you got 13,000 there that you've already allocated, I'm not saying I'm not sitting here promoting to use it all, but if we can add some insulation, and do some minor, additional, things there, it may have a benefit to us on our operating end.
did you have fans in all the rooms?
No,
Okay.
it's forced hot air though. And it's coming from the ceiling down. The furnace is actually in the attic.
I think one of the things that we found when we looked at that building in particular was the inefficiency of the heating system. The fact that they put the units up in the attic created excessive heat in the ceilings, and that's why you have ice dams that are rather hefty.
Well, if they had
Building.
fans that would push the heat down, I know I've got fans and you switch them summer and winter, and it
Yeah,
pushes the heat
I
down.
think
They
if
had
we were
used
gonna do
insulated
something
ductwork,
for
it would-
real savings, is to move the heating
Yeah.
systems down to the first floor.
Right.
That
And
nobody
duct,
putting them at the
use
first
the
floor.
same ductwork up above. It'll be a far more efficient system.
Yeah,
And I realize it takes up some room, but as far as I know, the unit's working okay. It's just a matter of relocation, because once you put your head above the ceiling, it's warmer up there than it is on the first floor.
Something's gotta be.
And that
heated.
means you're putting a lot of heat up against the roof.
yeah.
You're melting snow off at the ridge, it goes down to the eaves, which is a substantial eaves on that building. It builds up ice, and we're eventually going to end up with some water problems. Even though you use bitchethane or what have you to prevent water from backing in, it doesn't do any good, especially in your gutters, it'll ruin it. And my feeling would be, and I recommended that when we did the audit of the building itself, and I'm not sure if the audit that Keith has even considers that, but in my mind, it would be a substantial savings in fuel costs by moving those units down and ducting,
The other,
use the same ductwork.
Yeah. See, now the library, we've got, I think we got 2 units downstairs, 2 furnaces. And our heat cost is not exorbitant at all.
I think the study that was done indicated that the insulation should go in the attic and that the units should be wrapped, both the ductwork as well as the units wrapped to prevent, I don't think there was a location, a location change. But the other thing, not only we have that, and as we go through these budgets, we have other all our buildings were analyzed. And part of the grant money that we had $10,000, we spent $6 on the study. We have 4 remaining, and that 4 can also be used for some of these energy efficient upgrades. They were talking about new ballast, lighting systems, and we have all that information in the payback. So I think it'd be something that we wanna look at as well.
Well, you know, we're dealing with budget, and one of the issues is the expense of operation. Nothing to do with the patrol aspects of it, it's the facilities that I'm concerned about. And I think we ought to have access to that document.
Sure.
I haven't seen that.
I'll make them available to you. They're
That would
quite
be-
lengthy, and
yeah.
what I'll do is I'll give them out to you piecemeal. I'll give you the PDs, I'll put it in the box tomorrow, so you'll have that to review. And then we can go, as we go to the
I
next
think,
one,
yeah.
I'll make sure they're available.
I think it's a valid thing
Sure.
to do that sort of thing.
Because
one
the
area that I'm
fuel is
really-
getting expensive.
The one area that I'm really concerned about is the equipment maintenance, and I am assuming you're talking vehicle maintenance there primarily.
I have a breakdown of where that money goes to.
What is TrackStar?
TrackStar is a GPS system in the cruisers.
Is that the fee for subscribing to it, or
It's a license fee, correct?
license?
Yeah.
I guess my concern here is the fact that I'm looking at a figure of roughly 45,000 that's requested, and your expenditures was in that neighborhood.
Correct.
You know, I'm a little disappointed with our actual maintenance facility arrangement that we're working under now. It hasn't proved to be economical, and because of that, I think we could do it far less expensive right in-house. First of all, we have a mechanic at the highway barn, I think should be capable of doing the type of work that is needed. Specialized work, that's a different ballgame. I'm talking about changing oil, changing tires, putting new tires on, buying products at reasonable prices. And it would save not only in that overall cost, but the cost that is incurred by transporting a vehicle to the South Berwick, well, it's actually in Berwick, I guess, but the distance and the time frame that's used to do that sort of thing. You have 6 units, and so you've got to probably change, well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's once a month, maybe further on, but on the heavy operating units, it would appear to me that it would be fairly often. My concern there is the fact that the rate that we're paying, that facility is far greater than what we need to be paying. And I know there's been a controversy about that, it certainly is, it's gone through the mill, but I feel that we could do it in-house, right here in town. And we wouldn't lose time of officers having to travel. I'm not criticizing the officers, that's where you're going, that's the time it takes to do that. But it would be a savings, and my feeling is, we supposedly have a mechanic that's on duty at the highway barn. I think that should be incorporated as part of his position.
You got down here, the repair and maintenance of the fleet is only 14,000 out of that 45.
If I can speak for a
Yeah,
minute?
sure.
As far as the South Berwick Maintenance Facility, we haven't been using them for about 2 months now. There was some movement with personnel over there. There was some, due to those changes, we weren't able to get inspection stickers, have our vehicles inspected. We've been using North Berwick Auto. I've seen a significant cost savings in using North Berwick Auto. Been very pleased with the service. I talked to him several times before we even dropped our first car off. Everything, to my knowledge, and I'll let the guys speak if they had anything to say, has been working great with them.
Well, I think that's good,
I
and
just
that's what I
wanted
was
to
trying
throw
to
that
allude
out.
to.
Yep.
I think we can do it far less expensive than what we've been forced into with the South Berwick maintenance garage.
Well, the Southwood Ministry is, gossip says he's going out of business. I've been hearing that.
I think the South Berwick town manager is still trying to understand what he should be doing with that.
What the problem is.
Yeah, right now, they lost their main mechanic, he has taken another position in the town of York. So they are now, have been trying to fill it with a part-timer, and so they're in flux at this point. So when that began to occur, I mean, the chief and I spoke, and I indicated to him that we should try some alternatives here in town, as well as, and I think he looked not only at North Berwick Auto, but others.
Where's North Berwick Auto?
It's up on Route 9.
That's
The industrial,
industrial park, that's what I thought. Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you're going just a few miles?
Yep,
about
it's
5 miles.
very
Right.
convenient.
To talk about what Selectman Crichton has talked about switching some of our duties, or these maintenance duties into the public works garage. I'm sure at some point we could try to manage that, but right now I can tell you what we're doing. We have now taken our mechanic and assigned him additional duties which are outside the mechanic work. And we've had to do that primarily because at this point, we're down an individual. As you know, we have somebody who's been out on extended medical leave. We have not filled that position, it's still open. And so it leaves us with more hands in the road as opposed to in the garage. So I'm sure that we could probably work something out. I don't know if we have all the equipment that we need. There may be a cost for equipment if we wanted to do that, but it's a legitimate area that we could look at if we so desire.
Oh, Tim seems to think he's saving money by this one over here. That
I
he's doing
think we are.
I'm very confident that we are. And I don't want to speak poorly about, it was Matt Gray that was a mechanic over at South Berwick Maintenance. He was a very good mechanic. He just chose to move on, and that made a series of, a domino effect over that. But North Berwick Auto was very receptive to see us, and they've been excellent.
Your actual estimate was $51,050. Yep. And you requested 45, so due diligence was definitely there on that aspect. I had one question about the equipment purchase.
Yes.
What was it? What was this spot? Do I have a finger in it? See how that works. The new Motorola P1250, is that?
Those are portable radios.
Portables.
And again, as opposed to coming with a big request, every 5 or 6 years, I cycle those through.
Yeah.
So we're constantly getting a couple a year. It keeps the...
Didn't we replace the camera last year too?
No, this camera here is the actual camera system that the detective uses.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, what's going on is because of the digital technology, the 35 millimeter, the old 35 millimeter is not necessarily it's outdated, getting stuff done in a timely manner like people are used to now. It just isn't working.
Is there any way to combine that with the phone feed?
With the phone feed?
Yeah, did you get the camera and the phone?
The issue with that type of a camera is it's made for taking pictures of prints, footprints. It has to be fairly elaborate. I did already, and I chuckle when I say it, we had the detective run our camera system over to the old Rivers camera shop. We had nice equipment, we gathered it over the years, and what did they offer us? $25. And to look at it, you'd think several thousand, and that's what it costs.
Yeah,
But
and that's why I was just wondering, they've increased the,
I will say, I might be able to Well, first, we need to get the $9,000 that you've approved me to receive. I haven't seen that yet, unless it's coming, I don't know about it.
You mean the 9,000 that we're supposed to get from
Yeah,
the Attorney General's office?
Yes,
I haven't received it either.
okay. I mean, that request there, I mean, I couldn't articulate to somebody if I was ever asked that the camera system is being used for investigations. He does drug work just like,
And that's what I alluded to before, as
I
far
mean, I
as
can-
maybe cutting some of that.
I can
Just-
take that out and hopefully the state sends us a check.
Now, this camera, is that something that you can put outside and leave to take, to get information?
No, this is a camera that you would take photos, like, if you guys wanted to get together, you take a group shot,
Oh, yeah.
that type of thing. It's not something that you want going in and out of cruisers, it's a pretty elaborate system, it's made for taking, pictures
I was
of-
thinking of surveillance camera, it's not a
Yeah,
surveillance.
no, nope.
If, we're gonna check on that, the money that's being held up there, would it be you, Keith, or would it be you, Tim?
I don't mind trying. I don't know where it actually would set, I would say
I mean,
somewhere.
maybe we can do both, Tim can make an effort and so can I, so
Okay.
maybe that will. And
Put that
again,
on your list.
we're at the mercy of the Attorney General.
Oh, I
Well,
understand.
it might be a Medea, because that's the agency that,
Even their funds gets distributed through the AG's office, though.
he does too.
It does, that's supposed to keep us all honest, so they take it and then they'll distribute it. So it would be at the AG's office somewhere, I can speak with McMaster,
Okay.
he might be able to give me some insight, but I really don't know who would cut the check, it's their decision, so.
Just for own personal knowledge, what's the life expectancy of a taser?
I wish Sergeant Pilkington was here.
Behind.
He's
What
stealth
are they
mode over
saying,
there.
an overall life, other than batteries, obviously, we replace those?
We haven't really had them long enough we haven't cycled through any at this point.
Haven't worn
It
them
seems to
out
be
yet.
more of a life expectancy, like they keep moving on to the next generation.
Right.
Off the top of my head, I'd say at least 5 years, at least a couple now.
So you're just trying to plan ahead a little bit.
Correct.
I noticed that the town of Sanford went ahead and now are looking at long-range tasers.
Yes,
Is that something that?
they will need to leave their station, just shoot from the windows. The technology is the hardest thing, it's just like the computers you buy at your home or what have you, by the time you get it set up, there's something new
It's
out there.
obsolete.
That's not saying we need something new, the technology just continuing to move forward.
What's a long-range taser? You can shoot it like a gun?
They actually have some that fired from like a 12-gauge shotgun, they actually shoot the projectile out and then it disperses as
Would it
opposed
go
to.
as far as normally a bullet?
No, it's, but a greater distance than the ones that we would carry.
We're gonna have to get out of the way.
The ones that we
You
carry.
almost have to touch the person, don't you, now?
No, you,
No?
21, 35 feet, I think is the outside
Oh,
range.
okay.
But, right,
Chief, do you have, salary increases in here?
no, we do not.
Okay, because we haven't really talked about it.
I was gonna
As a
ask,
board.
but,
Yeah, we haven't even talked about it as a board yet.
None of the budgets that you see here reflect any increases in salary employees.
Okay.
So just so you know, and we haven't had that discussion yet, and I instructed all our department heads just to leave it out at this point until the board has a discussion and decides what they wish to do.
so you can take another 1,000 off, I'll try and get the same system to that grant.
You wanna leave it right now and then tell me later?
That's fine, again, we're up to the AG's office.
Okay. I'll just make a note of it.
I guess one of the final questions I have is, it's not a pleasant one to talk about, but we do have a hiring freeze, and we continue to, we hired your request for the rest of this year, fiscal year, because it was already included in the budget. I think this board at some point is gonna have to discuss this, doesn't have to be tonight, but either we're gonna have a hiring freeze or we're gonna get rid of it, so. So far, we haven't used it yet, we've had a couple opportunities and we haven't used it, so. I just wanna let the board know that it's something to keep in the back, yeah, that we need to be thinking about. If we're not gonna use it, let's get rid of it then. If we are gonna use it, this might be an opportunity. I'm not saying it is or isn't, I'm just saying that's a possibility. But we can think on that one and bring that up at another time.
Do you have any other questions?
Anyone else got some stuff?
You know, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but what is the actual savings by going to North Berwick Auto, Tim? Do you have a figure there?
I can tell you that I'm saving probably 75% on an oil change. And I say that, and I cringe when I say it, but I was instructed to go to the maintenance facility, and that's where I went. But North Berwick Auto was a drastic savings.
How much more expensive was going to South Berwick after that went down there?
75% more, what are you paying now?
I understand, but I meant from a year ago, before you went there.
Before I went to South Berwick?
Yeah, did you save money? by
Going to
there?
South Berwick?
Yeah.
No, I did not. Did not save money.
Gee, I already had been told that, but I wanted to get it from you.
What type of services do they offer you, Tim?
At North Berwick Auto?
Yeah, what are they doing for
They
maintenance?
do everything, don't they?
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Complete, they can do anything.
He's, I'm impressed.
They have certified mechanics there. What is it, A's inside, A's certified.
Whereas possibly the mechanic at the town garage would be a little bit limited in some of your repairs?
Well, speaking frankly, I think he would be. I also think that, I think the other issue we have here is, let's just take tires for instance. If you wanted us to change tires, we could accomplish that, but we're probably looking at a $15,000 bill to get a tire changer purchased and put into place, so.
You gotta
is
get a
it-
changer, you gotta get a balancer, you
Right.
gotta get,
So is it really worth it, or is it more advantageous to farm that out and
What if
take
we,
it to someplace else?
what if we contracted all of our mechanical work out to him? I mean, public works and everything.
you can't accept big trucks.
Yeah,
He can't accept big
yeah,
trucks?
they, you know, we are using the South Berwick Maintenance Facility and Dover Auto Mart to provide us large truck maintenance and repairs, at this point.
What does our mechanic do?
He is more, he'll do, minimal work on our, heavy equipment. He does all our metal fabrications and repairs, and keeps, you know, those types of things, up and running.
Does he do all the oil changes and stuff on the pickup?
The larger trucks he does, yes.
So who does all the pickups?
It depends.
They've been going to South
Yeah,
Berwick?
we've had him at South Berwick, and we've had him at other locations in the past.
Well, if Jimmy's saving that much, maybe we ought to take the other smaller stuff up there too.
Well, it's certainly something that we could do.
Kinda, yeah, makes sense to me.
Under the memberships, are we receiving benefits pretty much from all of these memberships that are running it?
Yeah, or I wouldn't pay for
Okay,
it.
well,
Yeah.
just
We, you know, some of them, we are required, like when I mentioned to you earlier, I have to get a membership for the online training that I was talking, that the guys do. There's a membership fee. We're at $500 a year so that they can utilize that. It still saves us money, but, yeah, the things that are on there are things that we do use.
Just to
Sure.
Mm.
I see you've gone down on that too, about $700.
No, we're
No.
still budgeting the same amount. It's just in 2011, we actually spent more.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, you've got actual levy. So that's where you overspend, right?
That's where he manages budget well.
So moving forward, we're gonna have a decision, possible decision to make about the SRO officer. Or,
Well, what we did tonight is that we removed it from the operating budget to 75%. We'll show it as a, allow the finance office to show it as a revenue, so when it comes in, it goes back into his budget to pay the individual who's in it. I believe this budget holds in there the fact that we are going to have an SRO officer.
oh, okay.
Okay, it has not been removed, we're still gonna fund it.
And we're not thinking of removing it, right?
I don't want to have to remove them, no. If,
No, I don't think any of us do.
no. If I can speak just a little bit further on that. When I have Officer Fogg, when I utilize him in the patrol division at the police department, he fills, he's here in the summertime, which is when most of my guys wanna have off. He's in the school during the school year, during the summertime I have him. That's when we're busiest, that's when I have the most vacation time. If you take him out of the equation, I now have shifts that I used to fill with Milton that I have to fill somehow. It's either gonna go to part-timers or it's going to go to overtime. So yeah, you might take $20,000 over here, but I might very well come back and say, I'm gonna probably need $7,000 more in overtime to cover the shifts. Do you follow where I'm
Yeah,
going with
but
that?
now, like, during the school year, like the week's vacation,
Yep.
over Christmas, New Year's, do you have
I
use of
have
him?
Yep. The school, it's a very good working
Wednesday
relationship.
afternoons when the schools are closed?
Correct. I have him.
But actually, he's only there 4.5 days a week.
And they're very good. If something happens during the day or something that I need him for, I make a phone call and he comes back to this.
That's fair.
It's very, very good.
Yeah.
There are times that Milton does stuff above and beyond the regular school day, meetings at night, events that the kids have at school.
Oh, yeah.
It's a give and take, but I'm very happy and the feedback that I get from Paul Andre and the district and the people that work with Milton at the school has all been positive. It's been a positive thing all the way around. And it actually has reduced the amount of calls that we would normally have to the schools if we didn't have the officer there.
It's sad we have to have a police officer. in
It is.
schools, But we do.
It is.
Yeah, but doesn't this help the kids to develop a relationship with the police that they wouldn't have otherwise?
If you don't mind, I'll have Milton answer that.
Absolutely, I mean, 9 times out of 10, a kid's interaction with a police officer is gonna be either he's arresting mom or dad, or giving them a ticket, or stomping them.
Right.
So what I do in my program is, I walk around like this so they can see that I'm a normal person like anybody else.
You're a human being,
Yeah.
even though you're a cop.
And I talk to them, I interact with them. In fact, if you see me walking around town, 9 times out of 10, some kid waving at me, say, hey, Officer
Well,
Fogg.
I
because-
think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it gives the kids a different perspective on police officers, and
Right.
that's part of what happens with my position, is that kids get so comfortable with me that they start to come to me with things that they normally wouldn't
That's
just
good.
walk up to some police officer and say, hey, this person, in fact, I've had times where, sexual assaults, whatever, stuff like that they normally wouldn't be found out if the kid hadn't just come to me.
Yeah.
So
No, I think
it's a good position, and it's a good way for kids to see us in a different light.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm obviously an advocate for that spot, but, you always gotta
Do you
it
do the DARE also?
Yep, I do DARE. Officer Williams just started doing DARE this year. I've been doing it for close to 6 years now, so.
Okay.
Jerry did DARE too, but yeah, DARE's an intricate part, but I do internet safety classes to protect kids online, teach them things that they can do, and I do that during the course of my day as an SRO. I'll go into a class like, all the kids at the school get laptops. I'll go in there and I tell them, we got a working relationship with Dan Baker. I'll say, before the kids get their laptops, let me go in and talk to them about internet safety tips that they can use at home. Parents can come in and learn about it, and yeah, it's just a way to teach them stuff like that. So that's something else that I do, but.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Chief, do you rotate your officers after so long?
We keep an eye on them, as far as, it sounds funny, but a burnout rate. Cops typically aren't teachers, and it is a teaching environment. If I see that they're doing well, I leave them alone. Tim Williams had an interest in it, and what is happening this year is to get Tim Williams to a point where he might want to go into the school full-time. He's now teaching 1 day a week. When he's in the school, Milton's on the road, So
Close
we're
to their
still
age.
meeting, I have to provide one officer during the school year. They wanted to broaden their program, so I'm just moving personnel around, giving Officer Williams some experience. It gives Milton a little chief time with me.
Well, plus if
There's
you
always a
lost,
downside to
Absolutely.
everything.
Something like
Absolutely,
that.
correct.
then
If
you don't-
something
then you got
happens,
nobody.
correct. And the kids also now have somebody else they can identify with.
Now, the DEER program, I still think it's a good thing and everything, but it certainly isn't,
Mm.
helping with the drug program. It seems that the drug program is just, the drugs are just growing and,
If you look statistically, the program doesn't work. If you look at the numbers, the program doesn't work. However, you've got the old adage, if you can save one kid, it's worth it all,
Well,
which I
that's true.
agree with.
and I agree with that.
On paper, it doesn't work in the respect of the drug side of it. If you look at just the drug numbers, it's
But
not
they're
working.
increasing, so,
Past that though, the stuff that Milton just talked about, you know, the kids feeling more comfortable with us, talking to us, things that they normally wouldn't speak to us about, like he said, you know, a sexual assault case that kid could have carried 20 years into the future.
well, that's,
Came to a point where they felt comfortable enough to say, hey, Officer Fogg, can I talk to you? That you can't put a price tag on. So it doesn't work on paper as far as the drug aspect, the dare thing, but the payoff is, you know, you can't put a value on it. You just can't.
but they do start there, but,
We start with, actually, we're gonna start doing Huzzy School, well, we've tried to get into Huzzy School. Huzzy School is more just like interacting, talking with the kids.
yeah,
Fifth
well, I
grade
think,
is pretty
I
much
think
our-
maybe if you do start there down there,
Well,
it might be,
There is their curriculum, it's more based, like, they look at cards and you say, what's unsafe on this card, they point it out, and stuff like that. But the actual curriculum itself is centered around fifth grade. That's like our target grade, we start at fifth grade, and then as they go up, they get different programs, like life skills up at the middle school, and then I think they get life skills again at the high school. But most officer involvement is at fifth grade, so that's where our target group is.
Do you have any more questions on the budget this evening, colleagues?
It's an increase, but it's a, don't take offense, it's the union.
what was, what the actual increase you gave us, Keith?
After we removed the 62,096, we're looking at an increase of $79,155.
$79,155.
Right. We'll generate some new sheets for you with reflective of those changes, and we'll note the grant at the bottom so you know it's still there.
How does that reflect to a, the tax increase? Is it still, what was it, $1 per 100,000?
No, it would be $1 for every $623,000 that we increase the budget. Right now, the budget that was proposed, or budget that you looked at tonight before you started, had a total increased tax amount of $35,000. So with the changes that you've made now, we're on the negative side, we're probably around $23,000 less than last year's appropriations at this juncture.
For
Again,
the police department,
for the total budget,
oh, the total budget.
yeah. Right now, that's what
We
we
haven't
have.
done any.
You provided numbers, and you provided a balance sheet, and you have it tonight. And if you looked at the total tax allocation, you're gonna be there. But again, that's gonna be fluid as you go through this process.
Right.
So you don't really need to look at that, other than that you're making changes that you feel that are of utmost benefit to the town as you move forward.
Well, that 79,000 is a lot better than the first numbers that we got the other day.
Yeah, right now, the budget without those changes was up 141,251.
Yeah.
That particular budget.
So right now, you're about half of that.
Yeah, we'll get the new printouts and we'll take a look at that. This is our first pass at it. We may ask you to come back, Chief.
Sure.
Thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
Anything else, real quick, anyone, for him? If you don't mind hanging around for a minute, I'll just take a couple comments from the audience if they'd like to.
Sure.
Yes, right there.
Rob Kerner. I just want just two quick things. Do we have access to the budget, just out of curiosity, to be able to look at it? Like, are we able to go to the town hall just to get a peek of the overall budget?
Of the raw budget,
Yeah, just the
generally,
numbers.
we can make it available if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm just, it's part of one of my pieces of the job, so I enjoy actually looking at numbers.
Well, like Keith said, it's, right now, it's
Oh, I get that.
very fluid right now.
I absolutely get that. And then the second one, I just want to say, as a parent whose several kids have gone through Officer Fogg, they absolutely love him. I agree with you. I think the benefits may not necessarily be seen on the dare piece of it, but to me, it's not a luxury position. I think it's a necessity for the kids, and it's an incredibly valuable position, and I would never want to see anything happen to not just Officer Fogg, but anybody who's going to play a role in that, because the kids benefit way beyond. I spent 17 years working with at-risk kids out of the youth center, out of psych hospitals and stuff like that. That's invaluable.
What did you say your name was?
Rob Kerner.
Rob Turner?
Kerner with a K.
Kerner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to say thank all you guys, but thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that too, thank you. Yes?
Yeah, and I would back that up. All the feedback we get back on the work that Milton does is a lot of it does have to do with who the officer is. And Milton really relates to kids in that school extremely well, and they appreciate his presence. Very comfortable.
I feel the same way. I think maybe Dare needs to be moved down a couple of years.
We've talked about it, and it may be
Because
something
fourth
that,
grade kids today are pretty
Knowledgeable.
knowledgeable.
well, it would need to be a very different curriculum, and we've talked about that at the board level too, about looking at some other options.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
This year, I'm starting the Huzzy School at the first grade level. I'm supposed to be starting the end of March, early April.
Good.
So once we get done with the fifth grade curriculum, then we'll transition into the first grade curriculum. This year will be the first year in several years that we've done
That's where you
that.
can make a big impression.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Also, it is very nice to see the support of everybody here in the department here.
Yes.
I mean, just to have them present, to show an interest and stuff like that. You understand the position we're in, trying to,
I also had one other thing I wanted to say, and I talked to Tim about it today. We are desperately trying to find somebody to do detail work in the parking lot at Vivian Hussey School because of the crowding problems. The PD is actually, the overcrowding down there is causing some issues. PD's been called down there for fights in the parking lot. Any of you have the opportunity to go spend a little bit of time there.
It's ridiculous.
It's way beyond what you may think. I'm not being dramatic about it.
When people are taking their kids to school in the morning,
Well, you've been in that parking lot. We've
Oh,
had
yeah.
fights. Tim's been down there to break up parents fighting.
the only problem I had was the woman that stands down
Well, you
there
know,
and
Martha's,
bangs your door.
well,
like
I'm
that.
telling you what, Martha's a saint. To do that job is a
It
saint.
was to me.
Well, doing that job every day is getting a little ridiculous, but we've been trying, the district has been trying to hire somebody to be out there in the morning and in the afternoon to control that. We have been unable to. We have interviewed many, many people and
What
nobody
would they
wants
fight
the job.
over?
What's that?
What they fight over?
Oh, it's insane in that parking lot. You got road rage in that parking lot right now. You get stuck. I get stuck in that parking lot and can't get out some mornings for 5-10 minutes because the traffic is so bad.
Oh, I know,
And
I've seen
people
them
are
back
just
up to the
getting-
stop sign.
Well, people who need to get to work are getting mad.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I talked to Tim about it because our conversation was, because we can't find a person we can hire, we may be asking Tim for a detail person. So I would just ask that you keep that in mind. I mean, we are looking at paying quite a fee to do it. I anticipate when Bateman starts putting people in there, if we get any more kids in that school, we're in trouble. And we're working on a solution, but in the meantime, we need to get some relief in that parking lot before somebody gets hurt. You know how you drive around that circle, Eleanor? You now have people who are trying to go through their double, and they're letting their kids out on the island on the left, and then driving past their own kids, leaving their kids standing in the middle of that. So Martha is running through traffic, trying to grab those kids up, and you get parents who are, I mean, there've been some really
I
close
haven't been
calls.
down there this year because my great-granddaughter is going to 5th grade.
It's
So I
just
haven't
an
taken her to
overcrowding
school.
issue that's really resulting in
Is there any
tempers
way to
flaring.
make a couple more ingress exit?
We've,
We've
Would
had
that
civil
relieve it?
consultants down there twice. We've changed the structure of the parking lot 3 times. We've had it repaved over the summer, last summer, to account for it. There are too many people in that school, Marcia.
Yeah.
It was not built for that many grades.
Is
We have
this
more
just
grades
people
in there.
bringing the kids to school? Because I don't
Correct.
think
We
any of
have
them are
over
driving yet.
200, we have over 200 parents
Oh,
dropping
yeah.
their kids off every morning.
If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it.
You can't, and it is a real headache for the people who live on the street, and since I do, I relate to it. The last open house they had, they split up the grades, we still had cars parked up to Oscar and Vivian's farm.
Oh, I believe
They
it.
were parked past my house. There are too many kids in that school, and we're trying to find a solution for it, but it's only gonna get worse, because we have more housing coming in here, so over the next, we fear what's gonna happen over the next couple months before we can even attempt some kind of a solution in the fall. But right now, the estimates in the fall are for another 30 to 50 kids going into that school.
There wouldn't be any way to increase the parking lot?
We can't touch
There's
an ounce
nothing
of
on
it.
the other side of the building, is
We
there?
can't touch an ounce, we can't put another foot of parking lot pavement on that site. We can put another
Because of
trailer
the-
in,
because
and we
of the
can use the
wetlands?
we can use the playground, and we're considering that for the fall. Putting the playground that's asphalted into parking, because we can't put any more asphalt on that.
Then what do you do for playground?
Well, they'll lose it. I mean, they're, you know, no, we're in no different boat than you are. We gotta save money. I mean, asphalt would cost money too, and I don't think people wanna pay for that. So we're trying to find the lowest cost way to do it, which really involves moving kids around in facilities. So we're looking at taking 4th grade out and putting it somewhere else, so we move some bodies out of there, because it can't take any more than it's going.
You still have room at the high school? Where
We
you
have the
move 8th
most
grade up
available
maybe, and-
space. Yep, we have the most available space at the high school. So what we're looking at is 4th up to the 6th grade school, 6th up to the junior high, 8th up to the high school. So join us all on Thursday night. We have, I'm sure, a meeting where we'll have hundreds of people this Thursday night, where we're gonna be talking about a lot of those options. But there's some big transitions for parents. Nobody really wants their 8th grade kids. Well, some people don't worry about it, but a lot of parents don't want their 8th graders at the high school. A lot of people don't want their 6th graders in a junior high school. So initially, we may go with a minimal step just to alleviate the issue of Vivian Hussey. But Vivian Hussey is a huge issue. Somebody's gonna get hurt over there. It's the crowding, besides what's happening inside the building for stress by virtual numbers. The parking lot is dangerous. So I'm begging you to keep that in mind before you cut a person. We may need one of those people, and we will pay. So before you take somebody out, I ask you to consider the impact of housing units that are being put into town here on the school. We'll pay, but if you take men away, at a time we may need them, we're gonna all be.
It might be a good idea for an officer's presence down there.
Yeah.
It might change a lot of their.
We're
attitude.
trying. Well, Tim has worked with us. We're working with Tim to find a way to do this. We tried to save the district money and do it the cheapest way, but at our meeting last Thursday, and I talked to Tim about this, we agreed that if we have to pay detail rate to get an officer there, we're going to pay
I
detail
can't
rate.
imagine somebody pulling up the side letting their kids.
Oh, it's insane on her. I sit there, I watch
I
it.
mean, it's so dangerous.
It's their own kids, doing it with their own kids.
All to save 5 minutes of.
And then the parents start shouting at each other right in front of these little kids. It's just,
I've been there, so I completely agree
yeah,
with everything
it's
she's saying.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I was not teaching, but last year I was there a lot, with my
It's,
little
it's,
granddaughter.
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
We adjourn.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Peg. I'll take one more. Someone's got one more? Okay, I'll take a motion to that. Motion to adjourn. Chief, officers, thanks for coming.
Thank you.